Well, moving on to the troubling issue of child prostitution. Teenagers who run away from home can fall into the hands of pimps or gangs and be sold for sex. But for 35 years, a Los Angeles-based charity called Children of the Night has been helping young girls and boys escape a life on the streets.
And make no mistake, we really are talking about children, as VOA Los Angeles correspondent Mike O'Sullivan told me when we talked.
The kids you meet there are basically they're just like any group of middle school or high school kids. Some of them that I've met are as young as 12, and they're generally up to 18. At 18, they can move on to college. Some of them are great success stories. They graduate from college. They go into fields like social work, teaching. Others, unfortunately, end up back on the streets. But the goal of the organization is to get them off the streets, get them into counseling, get them into a secure place where they can finish their education, get their high school diploma, and move on.
So of the girls that you spoke with, what were some of the reasons that drove them into prostitution?
Well, when you talk to Lois Lee, who's dealt with thousands of these kids over the years, she says the one common denominator is abuse at home. Sometimes from parents or other family members, sometimes from caregivers, often at a very early age. The other thing is a dysfunctional family. I spoke to one girl whose sister was a drug addict and a prostitute, her older sister, and her sister basically sold her into prostitution at the age of 14. Another girl I spoke to who's featured in this story, her mother was a drug addict, and she was placed in a group home. She ran away. A friend of hers, who she said she thought was a friend, basically sold her to a pimp.
She's like, okay, we need to make money somehow because, we don't have jobs and we need a place to live. And she's like, I can steal from people and, you're really pretty. And right then I was like, oh, I know what that means.
Sarah says she had one client and then ran to a nearby shop pleading for help. The police were called and they referred her to the Los Angeles-based charity Children of the Night.
Now, another important part of this is the way that authorities view and treat these girls and sometimes boys where they're being seen as victims.
There's been a big educational drive, both aimed at the general public and at police agencies across the country.
We don't look at these girls as prostitutes. We rescue these girls and we understand the dynamics of them being victims. So, and that's one of the things that we're trying to provide training to through the rest of the state and, quite frankly, the rest of the country.
The group's founder, Lois Lee, says things have changed since she started this work 35 years ago.
Prostitution's been moved off the streets because of violence on the streets, because of guns, and so a lot of it's gone to internet advertising.
Pimps mostly recruit customers for these girls through online websites, but Backpage.com, which is frequently criticized because it runs ads for adult entertainment services, says it wants to help and has formed an unlikely alliance with a charity.
In this country, you cannot legally advertise for prostitution or engage in prostitution, but there were a lot of code words, and it went on. Now, Craigslist came under so much criticism that it shut down that section of its site, and a lot of that advertising moved to Backpage. Now, Backpage has come under a lot of criticism, and what they have done is put an ad on the site, reaching out to these kids if they're involved, telling them where they can get help. And they have crews of people who basically scrutinize all the ads, looking for indications that anyone advertising on there may be underage. And if they find anyone, they shut down the ad and they turn the contact information over to the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children.
And Mike, as a father of a teenager yourself, why did you want to do this story? What do you hope people take away from it?
They remind me of friends of my son or friends of my niece. So, you talk to these kids and it's like visiting a high school, and it's a little jarring when you think back to what they've gone through. But really, they're just regular kids who get involved in a very bad situation, and when they're pulled out of that, they can get back to just being teenagers again.
All right, again, that was VOA Los Angeles Bureau Chief Mike O'Sullivan. Now, here in the U.S., the statistics can be quite sobering, showing that 1 in 7 runaways reported to the Center for Missing Children in 2013, that was last year, were likely to become victims of sex trafficking.
Sobering.
Yeah.